Welcome, everybody. My name is Melanie Harwood from Educate Global, and with me today is Mr. Andrew Stein. May I call you Andrew or Andy?
Oh, please call me Andy.
That is fantastic. Now, Andy, you're going to tell us, because for those of us that haven't watched CNN, we want to know why you are the most famous charity on the planet.
Well, we are not, but we are one of the most special. My name is Andy Stein, and I am the founder and executive chairman of the Orphan Starfish Foundation. And what we are is we're dedicated to helping orphans, victims of abuse, survivors of trafficking, indigenous children, refugees, and at-risk youth all over the world escape their cycles of poverty and abuse through education, job training, and job placement. And we focus on building technology centers, either in the orphanages, in the homes, in the community centers where these kids live and study. To date, we've now built 71 computer centers, technology centers in 29 countries around the world. And at any given point, 15,000 vulnerable children are going through our programs.
Andy, how did you do this? Where did you start? Come, now we have to go back to the beginning.
All right, we're going to go back to the beginning.
Let's go right back to the beginning. When did you start?
I will not bore your listeners with all of it, but it's actually our 20th anniversary this year. So I always introduce myself saying, hi, I'm Andy Stein, and I'm a recovering banker. I work in the banking profession, financing everything from developing market debt to infrastructure projects. And the last part of my career is I was one of the leaders in financing high-end hotels around the world. But my passion, my love is kids. I've been working with kids since I was a kid. And that's what I love to do. I make balloon animals, I do magic tricks. I just love being around kids and helping kids. So 20 odd years ago, 22 years ago, I went to every country manager. I was the #1 flyer in the state of New Jersey for Continental Airlines, which became United. I was flying 400-something thousand actual miles a year for business all over. I had worldwide coverage. I'd go to the Philippines for a day from New York. But so I wanted to do more. I had 2 small kids at home and I wanted to see kids wherever I went. So I went to every country manager then at Chase. And I said, look, if you want me to come to your country, find me an orphanage, 2 hours in the schedule, and let me visit. And then I'll come to your country. And everybody did. And I go to Chile, Brazil, Mexico, all over Latin America, Asia. So 21 years ago, I wound up at an orphanage for the most battered and abused girls in Santiago, Chile. These were kind of the worst cases of the worst cases. Many of them kind of well documented. And I went a little fearful. And I got in and they were the most beautiful, wonderful, hopeful girls you'd ever met. And it was insane to me. They'd been through so much and I knew all their backstories, but they all had this incredible hope. So I did my magic show, I did my balloon animals, and then the nuns took me aside and said, look, Tio Mago, Uncle Magician, the girls love you. They can't wait for their Tio to come back, but I'm not sure if you know what happens here. At the age of 18, by law, these girls are considered adults and they have to leave our home. There are predators waiting outside, and if we don't do anything soon, we will continue the process where 100% of these girls go into prostitution or live on the streets. That was my aha moment. I went back to New York. I blackmailed the law firm that made the most money off me the year before, said, if you want my business, I want a 501c3 by the end of next week. They did. That's based on the Salvation Army's 501c3. It's like documentation like that. Raised $40,000 from friends and family and decided that education and job training was going to be the way out. So we built a state-of-the-art computer center within the orphanage itself. The girls took to it immediately. I went back 6 months later. The younger girls were the top of their class. The older girls had learned how to use Microsoft Office, the internet, the keyboard. They had a skill. And I won't bore you with a lot of statistics on this call, but my favorite is now in 20 years with that orphanage, since we opened our first center, only 1 girl's gone to the streets. Every other girl's gone on to university or gotten a full or part-time job. And that expanded. So to not bore your listeners, it kept going on and on. So basically, then I went to Brazil, then I went to Panama, then I went to Mexico, and I kept building new programs. Then we started a gala in New York, which I can talk about later. Had a bunch of people raise $100,000. I thought that was more money than anything. And then we kept going and going. And as my passion and this foundation kept growing, my interest in continuing to do banking diminished. So 12 years ago, I left formal banking, started a consulting company to spend 50% of my time doing this. And 10 years ago, I just gave up money altogether and decided to do this full time. And that's how the growth and all of the wonderful things we've had has happened.
Andy, how does somebody give up money?
How does somebody give up money? You realize that money doesn't buy happiness. I don't give up money completely because one of the things I have 2 children of my own. I wanted to make sure their college was taken care of. I wanted to make sure I had a retirement account. So I didn't kind of completely give up all money in the future, but I gave up kind of a ridiculous salary and compensation scheme to live frugally and do what I love. How do you do it? Is you follow your passion. You don't have to be Mother Teresa and kind of give up everything and wear robes, but you can. There are a lot of things you'll find you can give up for happiness.
Now that's really interesting because a lot of people ask us when we created Educate Global, we could not get funding, and we've never ever had funding for Educate Global. I'm a social entrepreneur and I have a little handwriting scheme, and my little handwriting scheme is what has funded all of Educate Global. And somebody said to me on the phone this morning, he said, "But you're so small. How have you achieved so much?" Yeah. And I said, "Because I'm so small, I can be nimble." And it is, you cannot give up money altogether, but you do live frugally and you achieve a huge amount more. I think your strides are bigger because you're unencumbered by all the bureaucracy that sort of surrounds it. Andy, those girls that started out 20 years ago, where are they now? What are they doing now?
So they are everywhere. I'll go from some, and then I'll tell you one story. So there's one opened her own hairdressing firm and uses the stuff she learned in Microsoft Office and Excel to run her business. One is studying to be a doctor. One is studying to be a nurse. One is studying to be a businesswoman. 2 are married with kids but have a part-time job that are supporting them, and then others are still in school in various ways. But my favorite is Marisol. Do you have time for a quick story?
Come on, tell us. We got all the time in the world, Andrew.
We don't, but
I mean, you had me at hello.
Marisol met me. She's told the story many times. I'll tell you a little bit point of view too, but I met her when she was 9. She had just come from being a victim of significant abuse, both physical and sexual, which she talks about. One of her sisters is damaged because of that. Another family member passed. But when I met her, she was sitting in a corner and all she would do was read. So I met her, I did some magic tricks, and she says, "Who is this crazy gringo with a red nose?" And then we talked about computers, and she had never seen a computer before, didn't know what a computer was. So I delivered the computers and I started teaching her a little bit, and I told her this was a mouse. And she stepped back. She's like, "I hate mice." I'm like, no, it's just called a mouse. It's not really a mouse. You don't have to touch a mouse. Anyway, she was amazing. So she took over the computer lab. Anytime she can get in, she started working on it, did homework. She taught herself to read, reading Harry Potter books online in Spanish. She taught herself English online. We gave her a scholarship to university. She graduated cum laude from university there. She went off and became a fraud analyst in a major bank. And then 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago now, I had the great pleasure of walking her down the aisle as father of the bride, where she got married to the most amazing gentleman. And then she was told, because she was so abused, that she would never be able to have children. And at that time, at the end of the wedding, she handed me an envelope, and inside the envelope was the picture, I forgot what it's called. A picture of the baby in her womb. And she was pregnant. And so now she has a beautiful 2-year-old boy, a beautiful family. She bought her first house, and she just joined my board as the first ever graduate to join my board. And this is a girl, by all accounts, was destined for prostitution. And instead, she goes back and she mentors all of the girls in the orphanage where she came from. And it's just one of those stories that I just love to tell. And she loves to tell as well.
where are you going from here? What do you want to achieve? What's the next, what's
Well,
this
where have
next
we
step?
gone and where are we going? So I never in my wildest dreams thought we'd have 15,000 children in 29 countries around the world, including Native Americans here in the US. Um, I have no ego about this, so I don't really, I'm not sitting there saying I need 100,000 kids by X or 500 countries by Y. But I want to touch as many and I want to help as many of the children as I possibly can around the world. Um, there's two things. One, I want to give them as much opportunity already, the ones we have already. So the 15,000 we help already, we keep developing new programs for us. So now it's not just basic computing. Now it's programming, it's robotics, it's English language skills, it's life skills. We just signed something up with Apple and Final Cut to teach movie making. We did something with Google to teach beat making using programming language. So I want to get, and then the arts. We brought a lot of the arts to all of our kids all over the world, master classes from ballet dancers, Broadway singers, etc. And then as much, again, any opportunity I can give them. And then it's to reach new children. So we'll probably do 4 new programs this year, 1 in each location, 1 in the US, 1 in South America, 1 in Africa, 1 in Asia. And that's pretty much been our expansion. We're going to do our first LGBTQ program ever. Just sent the money down. We'll have an opening next month if I can get down there. But it really is to do as much as possible. And really, as you said earlier, funding is, sadly, I have to spend half my life begging people for money. If I can spend all of my life with the kids, I'd spend all my life with the kids. So I wake up every morning kind of hoping that someone left me an endowment of $50 million and never have to worry about money again. But if not, again, so that's the goal of conversations like this and getting the word out with CNN and others, is the hope that we get more funding so that we can do more.
Now, I've just realized probably why we've met. So I think I think we may, we can discuss it later, but we have just started a process of training up, upskilling. So Educate Global, we upskill teachers to deliver climate literacy, carbon literacy, transition engineering, transformation towards sustainability in education globally. And we've just been trialing a new teacher training called the Carbon Literacy Teacher Training. Okay. And normally that training was delivered in the past to professors only and business schools and universities. And I begged the lady that created the training to deliver it to my schools. Right. And she said, no, it can only be to CEOs and professors. Okay. So what I did was I inveigled my way in, did the training, and then I offered to be a facilitator. And every spare moment I got in the breakout rooms, I asked the professors, please go back to her and tell her that she's got to deliver this to my schools. Absolutely. So eventually she messaged me. She said, can you stop harassing me? She said to me, if you don't stop this, she said, then eventually she came back and she said, okay, look, I'll have a deal with you. I'll deliver this to your teachers on condition you leave me alone after this, yeah? And I said, okay. And then she said to me, okay, we need facilitators, but normally it's professors. And I said, well, can't we have some university students? Right. So we put an advert out and we only wanted 3, but within 15 minutes, we had like 25 students. Right. And every week she trained those students for 3 hours, and then they helped us facilitate that group of teachers on the Monday. Wow. Those uni students taught us more than we ever knew. They were just teaching us tech skills and things like that. Yeah. And I think where you and I are going to be chatting in the future is I would love for your children in your centers to become certified Educate Global facilitators, to give them confidence to facilitate this training online and train teachers and mentor the teachers, because we found that the students were the perfect mentors. Right. And they had, because they are digital natives, their digital skills are so superior to ours. My age group, yes, we're pretty savvy using phones and iPads and all that, but As soon as somebody shows me a new bit of software, I don't know why I have like this angst, and it's like, look, I can't do this. Somebody else. It's not. But the students held us metaphorically by the hand and said, let's guide you through this, and did a little step-by-step training with an infographic, and then took us into it and said, are you confident with it now? And it just now I said, yeah, Padlet, no problem. I can rock that. Menti, yeah, I can do that. But before, I would have been very afraid. So I think that your children in your centers, wherever they are, these are digital natives. I think that we could work with them and we could train them to be facilitators, and they could mentor all of the teachers coming through doing the bronze and the silver and the gold award, and they will be paid. Our facilitators are paid 15% of what each school pays as soon as they get an award. So they should be trained and earn.
I would love that. What I'd love to do is maybe find a pilot program where we get some of our graduates, some of our scholarship recipients.
Got a deal.
I think they would be amazing. Is it only in English or other languages as well?
It can be in whatever language they want it to be in.
All right. So off the top of my head, I probably have 10 girls, mostly one boy.
I mean, there's nothing stopping us from translating it. What is the language? Is it Spanish? Yeah. So we could translate it.
I mean, I have a couple of others that would be amazing that are just English as well, but English, Spanish, and then Portuguese for the Brazilians.
Fantastic. You got a deal.
All right. Perfect.
Got a deal. I wanted to ask you about sustainability, because this summit is the Sustainable Schools Virtual Summit. How can our schools, our Educate Global Award schools, how can they be more sustainable and at the same time partner with your teams, with your girls, wherever they are?
Right. So it's interesting because people use sustainability in different ways, right? So, I mean, there's financial and environmental.
Yes.
So financial is kind of what I've been focusing on, right? Making sure these girls and boys have the skills they need to sustain themselves and to sustain their families and to sustain the orphanages in the future. And we've been really, really good about that sustainability. The next is what you're talking about, which is environmental and sustainability. And that's something, I'm a scuba diver. I love to hike. I'm an outdoors person. I live for sustainability. I used to help reforest the corals in the Dominican Republic in my spare time. So I have a great spot in my heart for environmental sustainability. And I think what I've been shocked at is no matter where these kids live, no matter where they are, the children that we work with are extremely conscious of sustainability. And they do it in their own ways. Whether it's cleaning up parks or whether it's cleaning up the oceans or whether it's doing their part. There's a group of nuns I work with in Nepal that go on a trek through the Himalayas, collecting all the bottles and plastics all throughout the Himalayas that are left over by all the climbers. So there's a great sense of the environment and sustainability and a great desire. So I think there is absolutely room for partnership in terms of that. Again, I think there's planting, replanting. There's kind of all aspects of sustainability on a small term local level. I think obviously kind of carbon footprints and things like that will go a little bit over their heads. But I think doing what they can on a local level and teaching others around them. A lot of our orphanages or centers or community centers are kind of held up in each area as kind of like the gold standard in education. So I think if our kids are given these tools, they'll teach them to the villages around them.
Perfect. So I think what we'll do is we'll get in touch with them, and we're busy doing a bit of a project at the moment where we have 1,000 UK schools and we're partnering them with 1,000 LEDC schools. Okay. So one UK school is partnering, and the LEDC school is teaching the UK school, and the UK school is teaching the LEDC school.
I love that. And what's interesting is we'll talk in a little bit about how lemons to lemonade, right? COVID has been horrible. It's been all kinds of bad things. but it has gotten people very used to calls like this, very used to interaction over the internet. And I think that's been one of the great benefits for us over COVID, is that we've had all of these amazing interactions and can bring so much more virtually to our kids, and they're all very comfortable with it now.
Well, Andy, I'm going to have each one of your schools, because they are effectively schools,
They are, right?
centers. Each one of your schools, we're going to onboard them after this chat, and they are going to they're going to be added, and then we're going to partner them with a school here in the UK, and we're going to start the process of them doing the Bronze Award, so that we're not going to be going heavy into the carbon literacy realm yet. Bronze is just the beginning. It's just adaptation and mitigation. That's all it is. Okay. We do something called MAT. MAT is mitigation, adaptation, transition, transformation. Fantastic. So let's just start at the beginning bits, because you can't walk unless you learn to crawl.
No, but some of my kids, I think, are going to be presidents of their country one day. So I think getting them involved in this early absolutely gets that training done.
Andrew, how long have you known that there are these angel children out there?
I've known for a very, very long time. I'm not sure how old you are, but probably longer than you've been alive. So again, I've been working with kids, at-risk children, since I was a kid. It's just something I was drawn to. But I was made, again, I was fairly successful as a banker. So I was, at a very young age, made the head of investment banking in the Philippines. And, but I wanted to bring this joy to others. So I had someone in the office introduce me to a couple of orphanages there. And that's how I got really, I used to watch over them. I'd go visit them every weekend. When the typhoons and the super typhoons would hit, I'd drive over. At one point, I saw one of the houses kind of rolling across the street. And my car got crushed by a branch, but they were all safe. So, but it was the learning aspect that really kind of drew me to them. I would teach them, they would teach me. I learned Tagalog from those kids. So then that kind of, but it's always been a passion. That helped me focus on orphans. And then as I focused on orphans, I realized all these other at-risk populations. So I moved on to victims of abuse, survivors of trafficking, indigenous children around the world, refugees. So there's so many at-risk, vulnerable populations. But the overriding, their hope for the future and their resilience. I think one of the reasons we were so successful during COVID in pivoting, and that's why CNN focused on us. They thought we were the most successful foundation they'd come across in pivoting during COVID, is because our kids are so resilient and so hopeful. So whatever comes your way, you kind of turn it into an opportunity. If you want an example real quick, we have one girl we work with HIV positive kids in Cali, Colombia. And this one girl, Linda, is absolutely the most amazing young woman you've ever met. And she gave a speech. She was honored one year at our gala. And she came and she gave a speech saying, I look at my HIV as a gift. And everyone looked at her and says, I never would have had the opportunity to join this organization, never had the opportunity to learn what I learned. I never had the opportunity to meet the man that I met. I never would have had the opportunity to have a baby that is HIV free without all of the training and opportunity that you all gave me. So I look at HIV as a gift. And, talk about that is, how many people.
You've got me going here. You've got to be careful. The makeup is going. Hang on. The makeup is going to start crying. Yeah, Andy, please, you're getting me now.
But again, it's amazing. It teaches you resilience, right? Yes, you can cry about it, but think of how you look at things in your own life. And I've had I gave a whole podcast on happiness of giving. And I said, well, it's not like my life has been just one nonstop happy roller coaster. I've been through 2 divorces, the whole 9 yards. But I think you put your pain in perspective. Your pain is valid, but what these girls and these boys do is really put everything into perspective.
Andrew, we're going to be post-COVID. We're going to be looking at the recovery, our post-COVID emotional recovery. And it sounds to me like your angel children are going to be teaching us a thing or two.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
They have this, I call that stickability, and you call it that resilience. They've got that stickability. They've got that grounding. And I wonder, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, obviously you have a podcast with them talking and that, and telling us, maybe we could have one of your schools or some of the children come and tell us about how they've recovered, why they've recovered, and how they see life, why they look at life differently.
I think I would love that. So when in the future, let's kind of talk about that and have a couple of guests come on and tell you about. There's one, again, I keep telling my stories, but there's one girl, Hennesis, here in the U.S. that I won't go through the whole story, but basically she's now in grad school in the U.S., speaks without an accent, and is a great kind of, she can tell her story extremely well in English, which always is helpful. So it's amazing. Yeah, these kids taught me and will teach others how to kind of come back after disaster.
It's incredible. It's that drop, and then that outward ripple. It just keeps on rippling wherever it goes throughout the world, wherever they are.
And look, even parochially, they inspire, these success stories inspire the girls that come into the orphanages or come into the homes for abused children when they first get there. I mean, in Cambodia, we work with survivors of trafficking, and some of those girls are 3, 4, 5 years old. And they come in, and the older girls will kind of mentor them and, know the trauma they've been through and kind of bring them up. We work with girls who in Costa Rica who were abused and had a baby from that abuse. And when I first went there, I was expecting 16, 17, and 18-year-old girls. And instead there were 10, 11, and 12-year-old girls with babies. And again, the fact that they, regardless of how these babies came to be, that they were loving them, they were taking care of them. And this place takes care of the babies while the girls learn and use our computers. Again, the ability to come back, as you say, as COVID wanes and the recovery begins, these stories, I think, will be even more important.
Andrew, is there a book that we can buy? Is there a book with the stories?
No, people have been bugging me to write this book forever. I just don't have the time. I need a ghostwriter to just kind of sit down with me. I can tell stories to, and she can write it, or he can write it. But I wish I had the time to write the book and tell these stories one day. Someone find me a ghostwriter in your podcast that wants to.
Oh my goodness! I tell you what, I mean, that's it. I'd buy it. I want to buy it. I want to buy the story. I want to read this, because I can't hear the story in just this chat. I want to, exactly. And you're not going to like this, but I'm going to need you to read the story, because my mother's 81 and she can't. Her eyesight is not very good.
I'll do the audiobook. Can we
get this? My mother loves Audible books. So if my mum's going to listen to this talk, my mother she says to me, I want to listen to that talk. And then she asks me a week, she says, what happened to Andy? I want to know, have you spoken to Andy? Or she says, what happened to that talk? And then I said to Mum, such and such is doing such a, no, where's their book? Where is the book? I've asked Alexa, where is the book? So my mother is going to be giving me a terrible time, Andy. You're going to have no choice.
You've got to find me a ghostwriter. I'm more than happy to talk, as you can tell.
Andy, I know the ghostwriter. I'm going to put a lady called Bella in touch with you. She will do your book like no other.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
But then you have to.
I have the outline written. I wrote an outline a while ago of kind of how it developed, the different countries, the different areas, the different things. I have a working title called Tio Mago. So I got to start.
All right. Okay. What do you need? What would you, if somebody could wave a magic wand right now, what do you want?
So it's very crass, but like I said earlier, I spend half my time begging for money. What yes. I want is the freedom and security that fundraising gives me. So I don't just ask for, I don't want, just don't throw money. The freedom and security that gives the kids, because I want to make sure that every year we can fund everything that we do and then expand. So fundraising, from exposure such as this is something that's invaluable for us. It allows us to do so much more for the kids we have and the kids we will have in the future. And then your expertise, in kind. What can people do that, okay, if they can't afford money or like this conversation, this exposure that you're giving us. The people who want to teach whatever they want to teach, people who have access to computers in the countries in which we work that can donate those computers. We can't send them internationally; it's just too expensive with things like that. But if you're in Argentina and you have extra MacBooks or etc., anybody hearing this podcast that has that, let me know. Laptops, not desktops, but yeah, anything like that.
Laptops.
And any other in kind. Celebrity support. We have a big gala every year. This is our 20th annual gala. It's going to be live and virtual, live in Trippiani, New York, virtual around the world. And we've had all kinds of wonderful celebrities that give a shout out, and some that perform, from Skip Marley to the woman who wrote Despacito to everything else. And then, celebrities giving us shout outs like J-Lo and professional basketball and football players and things like that. So I guess the answer is whatever you can give and support these kids is the way you help and give and support these kids.
How many centers have you got in total? Is there a map that we can go and look at?
There is a map which I can send you. There's 70 on that map. We're opening 71, which is our first LGBTQ program in Rio de Janeiro. That'll open next week, actually. Okay. And then we'll probably do 3 more this year. But there's 71 centers, I say now, 29 countries around the world. In the United States, for people who are interested here, we work with Native Americans. So we work with 5 different reservations and are expanding to 1 more in a few months.
So the website, where do we go to? Which is the website?
It's very, very easy. It's osf.org. Oscar Sam Frank. In America, there's a group called the Old Spaghetti Factory that has osf.com. They won't give it to me, but I have osf.org. So osf.org, everything's on there. All of our programs, all the locations, pictures, videos, the donate button, everything is on osf.org.
Okay. Andy, you've given me, my brain is just on fire.
I love that.
I'm on fire. I am just thinking to myself, right, we've got facilitators, we've got, they can be doing the training as well. They can become carbon literacy specialists themselves. We can be delivering transition engineering training to them, because we know the world needs transition engineers. We need to prepare them. So yeah, now my brain is going, I'm going to have to get my training head on, so that I can deliver that training in all those different languages, or whoever's listening, if you can translate from English to Portuguese, from English to Spanish, get in touch with us and let's get rocking and rolling, because we would like to translate all of our training into those languages so that we can give this to these children to get on with.
Fantastic. Love that.
So whatever we can do, we all need to work together. And I'm quite sure that your children can teach us some very powerful and valuable lessons about stickability, resilience, emotional resilience, emotional literacy, because if they can get through adversity of like that, what you're saying, because everybody's telling me this, children are going to be really disturbed from COVID, post-COVID, there's trauma, PTSD, and but what you're telling me, I'm thinking, no, that's crazy.
It is true. They will be traumatized, but they will be able to get over it, I think, with the help of kind of people who've been through much worse.
Wow. Andy, it has been absolutely incredible speaking to you. I love it. Let's do it. I have your email address. That's it. You can't get away now. I know where you are. I'll have to track you down. I'm not going to chase you though. I'm not going to chase you, because you're quite happy to get in those tubes that fly all over the world. I'm not going to do that, because I'm a bit scared of catching COVID in a tube, in a flying tube.
Got my first shot. I'm online for my second shot in a month, so I'll be getting back on the road next month. I've already got plans for Colombia, Mexico, Chile, Brazil, Paraguay, 1 month. And then Africa, Ethiopia, Kenya, and other places the next.
Well, once I get the vaccinations and I'm back in, and I might be passing you. You might be in one little tube going that way, and I might be in one little tube going that way. but I would love to work with your groups and get our schools to work with them. We start some sort of if they join the cohort 2021, I mean, that's okay. It's not much, Andy. Let's just start and let's get your school started.
First journey starts with one step, all over it.
So everybody, you've heard it here. If you want to get in touch with us, if you want to send anything, computers, assistance, learning, education, ideas, anything at all, you've got that website, and I will have all the links below as well.
Awesome.
All the videos, all the links, everything you need. I'll even have that in the transcription if you're listening to the podcast of this. And from me, Melanie Harwood at Educate Global. Don't forget, you can get in touch with us at support, SUPPORT, at educateglobal.org, 2 C's, EDUCCATEGLOBAL.org. Andy, Stein, you had me crying, you had me at hello, and we shall continue this. And this is the first of many conversations, because we're going to follow this as this develops.
Perfect.
I want to know where I want the book, I want the Audible, I want it all. Okay, that's it. Thank you very, very much for joining me. Thank you for speaking, and we're really excited. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate your heart.
Bye-bye, Andy. Have a fantastic day. Thank you.
Enjoy.